we moved to Da Nang, which is kind of central
Yeah.
Vietnam and on the coast. So it's a nice coastal city, about 1 million people. But yeah, we'd never been to Vietnam before, and it's so far surpassed all our expectations. And we had high expectations moving here. Like it's the people are wonderful, and the city's really clean and safe, and very very good cost of living, which was certainly a big factor as
Mate, it's
in terms of
I
leaving
just came
Sydney.
back
Like
from
which
Vietnam. Yeah, I spent 3 weeks over there, and I actually went to Da Nang. It gets bloody hot in summer. I tell you what. Yeah,
yeah,
it
we're
was
we're
so
looking forward
hot
to
that we
that.
didn't even hang out at the beach. We were just too hot on the beach. It was like 37, 38 degrees every day, and it was just scorching. But it's such a nice place, and far out, your money goes a long way.
What
Yeah,
was
well, we're living in a hotel at the moment, kind of more in inner city part, so not in the expat part, in like the kind of real Vietnam area. So there's no
Yeah,
English speaking here, but yeah, I mean the money, yeah, like we're living on not much, as in like we're not spending much, but we're living essentially in the penthouse suite of this hotel, and it's like $700 a month kind of thing. It's just like this is
yeah,
ridiculous. Like
wow, that's
just can't
oh,
awesome.
that's
believe it.
great. Yeah.
So what was
Yeah.
why Vietnam if you'd never even been there before? What spawned that?
Well, because we're quite early stage in the startup, we needed to move like we couldn't live in Sydney on,
Yeah,
no income,
yeah,
right? Like it's just having an income is hard enough to live in Sydney. So
yeah.
we were looking around at like various. We started looking at Bali, and then we realized that's been overinflated, and then we're looking at Thailand, a few other places, but we landed on Vietnam just because it just kind of had all the elements: safety, low cost of living, and just a lot of really really good reviews. We didn't expect to end up in Vietnam, but
And decent internet,
yeah,
I'm
like
guessing. I'm guessing that would have been a factor for you as well.
oh yeah, definitely,
Right.
definitely, yeah.
Yeah, nice
But
one.
it's been great.
Yeah, that's unreal, man. So good. What a huge, life leap.
Yeah, yeah. But man, it's been awesome. It's just been so relaxing, and even though we're working super hard on the business, it's like the thing that Joey and I talk about is like we feel like we're living in alignment with our value. We've both done a lot of work, I guess you could say, like on ourselves and like our spiritual side, so to speak. And it's like we both feel like this is what we were meant to do. We're meant to be entrepreneurs. We're meant to be, doing this. And even though we're still trying to figure out how to make the business profitable, and we're still growing it, like, and we both came from big salaries in Sydney. It's like, never want to go back to that.
Yeah,
Would never want to. This is what we want to do. So and I
yeah.
imagine it's the same for you guys too,
It
right? Like you
is. It
guys
is.
are,
There's a level of excitement that, I mean, Yanni and I are so far down the rabbit hole now. Like we've like when we went 100% online and sold Unity Gym, we were making a big loss. And there were periods of time where Yanni and I both talked about, man, maybe we need to get a job to support out the business growth. And we've passed that now, which is great. But I mean, I really entertained the idea, and I didn't even know what I could do. Like I was trying to think, what am I even qualified for? Like, what would my skill set even lead me into being able to do? And but yeah, the entrepreneurial journey
There's
is
been
very exciting.
two stages where we gave up transitioning from being personal trainers working at Fitness First we had our Fitness First gyms, or at least for me, because Rad had come out of the military at that stage, but I gave up a really really good salary at that point. I was earning like close to $200,000 a year, and then dropped it right back to 50,000 to open the gym originally, and it was terrifying doing it, and that was the first big one. And then the second big one was exiting the gym, selling the gym, and moving fully online, because we had a bit of a business started up, but it wasn't capable of sustaining our incomes. And it's taken 3 times or twice from me to sort of inject my own personal capital to keep the business going, where you kind of like, man, like this is an enormous amount of money. And I'm not talking like a few tens of thousands, like it's like big chunks of money each time to pay off the credit card and keep it going, and you're sort of going all in, and but yeah, as Rad said, we've hit a point now where we're profitable, and it's sort of like, okay, now it's about growth. Like we've got to a point where the business is sustainable. Now we want to take it to the next stage, the next level, and it's super scary. each point in that journey, like entrepreneur. Yeah. But what Rad said is totally true. Like we did face this period. Mate, was it last year or the year before, Rad?
I think it was the year before.
Because the economy sort of cratered recently, and it's going through a lot. And we're such a highly discretionary product. You're probably selling quite a highly discretionary product too. Any sort of coaching model where people can sort of go, oh, do I really need this anymore? Or can I do it alone? Go it alone. You end up on the chopping block when things get tough for people and they're tightening their budgets. We've been growing this business since, we look back now and you don't think 2019 was, when we were in 2019, you didn't think it was amazing, but you look back now and go, my God, it was frothy back then. Like everyone had so much money and it was just incredible. And, since then it's just been a roller coaster. And so any new business, my hat goes off to you for having a good crack. It's a lot of fun, but you'll get to a point where you become unemployable by anyone else because you just don't want to go back there. You don't want to, what it's like doing it for yourself, and you don't want to do it for someone else. Sometimes I think, maybe it would be easier just to be someone else's number 2 or number 3, and not be trying to do it all yourself and make all the decisions yourself. But the reality is that I just have such a specific framework of a lifestyle that I never want to go back to the 9 to 5 monotonous answering for someone else, having to explain why I wasn't doing something at a certain time, or it becomes tricky, man.
Yeah.
Be careful.
Look, bro, we're already there. Both of us are already there, and we're like fully committed. We've planned it all out. We've done the scenario planning. It's like, look, if our runway runs out, we're still not going back. Like we've got the skill set, we've got the brains to figure something out, and we'll figure something out.
Yeah.
Oh, you'll kill it, man.
Like,
that's the mentality.
Burn the bridges.
Burn the boats. Yeah, burn the boats so you can't go back, and you don't have a choice. That's what we did. Yeah. If we ever write a memoir because we're really successful in what we do, that's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say, man, we just didn't have a choice. There was no other option. This was it. Yeah. And if this didn't work, then we didn't have any idea what we were going to do. So, good on you, man. Yeah. So let's talk.
How are you going finding time to exercise with all of that stress, mate? Rad said that you're cranking on the kid.
What's interesting? What's interesting about that is that even though so last year, right? Like we were trying to run this business and get it started up, and I was trying to do corporate, and I was trying to do gym, and it was just too much. Like I destroyed myself last year. I gave myself pneumonia from overworking and over gymming. And I'll tell you about that story in a moment. But basically, like over the last 3 years, I've gone through a bit of a journey in terms of my body. And It all kind of started in 2023, beginning 2023, where I was like, I kind of started on this journey of like kind of going on a bit of self-discovery and working out what my values are and what the fuck I'm meant to do with my life. And through doing that, I was working with a performance coach. And so for my whole life up until that point, I've been very skinny. Actually, I think Yanni, you were the same. Like you're a naturally like slim dude, right? Like
super
I remember, like I'm the same, right? If I don't exercise and I don't eat, even though I'm 6 foot, I'll just sit at 62 kilos. Like no body fat, just that's what happens, right? So I'd always kind of had this identity that I'm a skinny guy, and I'd kind of worked through that. And then 2023 was like the first time where I'm like, all right, I'm gonna fucking do this. So I put on a bunch of weight. I did that working with a local trainer at a local gym. I was just doing like hypertrophy stuff. And by the way, this was after I'd worked with you guys, obviously, in North Sydney. So it was funny. Like when I started working with that trainer, he actually said, "Oh, your technique's excellent. Like there's not really a lot to work on here." And I'm like, I know why. It's because I worked at the Unity gym for all that technique. Really paid off. But I put on the weight. And then I put on 10 kilograms actually in 23. I went from 72. And then 2024 came around, and I was working more on my own shoots and corporate, and trying to maintain the weight, but also put on the weight. And I just burnt myself into the ground. So about middle of the year, I went on another kind of like rampage to put on weight. And I had like, you know how you go onto YouTube and you see those like Instagram, the YouTube influencers, they have like, oh, I get up at 5 a.m. and then I smell the flowers of God, and then, you know, pour on my, like, I was doing that, like, but I did it for 3 months, like absolutely fucking perfectly. It was pretty autistic actually, but anyway, like I did it. And but I and Yanni, you might like this, because I remember you asked on sleep, and that's always stuck in my mind, because I was getting about probably 7.5 to 8 hours sleep, but I was doing like 5 days in the gym and trying to do work on my entrepreneurial pursuits and do corporate. Ended up giving myself pneumonia, which just destroyed me for like 3 months, like completely destroyed me. It started off as like a flu, and then that was about middle of last year. So I learnt my lesson, and
How old
lesson
were
was,
you at this time? How old were you last year?
I was 30, 31.
30, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm turning 32 in November this year.
It's interesting, because I did the same thing to myself at 28. I didn't get pneumonia, but I was working as a personal trainer at Fitness First. I was also working as a security guard, like a bouncer at Minsky's in Cremorne, running the door there. And so I had this scenario where I was, flat stick 5 days a week, sometimes doing a couple of training sessions on Saturday or Sunday as well during the day. And then usually Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, I was working like late at night until anywhere between 3 and 5 in the morning, So I was kind of like, it was like Batman at night, and then, a PT during the day. And I thought that I could just sustain that, and I was totally fine. And then I was boxing competitively at the same time. So training probably 2 hours a day, 6 days a week in the boxing gym, and then doing weights a couple of times, like probably 3 times a week, to maintain my physique, and strength and whatever. And I remember I was training a woman called Adrian, who was, I trained for like 8 years. She was one of my best clients. I'm still in contact with her. She was the personal assistant to Dr. Ross Walker, who's a cardiologist, renowned cardiologist. And during the training session, I started getting like really dizzy spills during the day, just randomly, nothing would lead up to it. And I'd have to sit down. I'd go pale and start sweating and sit down. And during her session, I literally almost passed out. And she said, "Man, you don't look good. Are you all right?" And I said, "No, I feel like I'm about to die. I don't know what's going on." And she sort of checked my heart rate and a few things. And she said, "Man, we've got to get you to the doctor. There's something wrong with your heart." So I went straight to Ross's clinic, and they hooked me up to all their machines. And he said, "Look, you've got the heart of a racehorse. I think you just got chronic fatigue." And then that was the first time I ever took a holiday and went overseas and just took a real break and a step back. And I just completely reevaluated how I was doing things and realized that the goal, the road to success didn't lead to me doing more things or giving away more of my time. It was about trying to figure out how to make my time more valuable to people. And that's when I started really doubling down on the idea of opening the gym and bringing on other people and scaling the business in a different way, But I can certainly relate to that mentality of just massive goals, wanting to crush, and then just your body just going, no. Yeah, go on. Tell me, what happened after you got pneumonia?
Well, it was a period of just recovery to start with, about 3 months where I didn't do anything. And I think on the note of your story, like I just learned, like, okay, my body's not invincible, even though you think it is. Like you think you can just push and push and push and, oh, whatever, I'll just be tired and I'll go to the gym. But you really it's actually the second time that's happened to me. It happened in 2021. I got COVID, and then I ended up with glandular fever. And it was weird. I remember looking up an article that said there's a number of people who are getting glandular fever after they get COVID, and it happened exactly at that time. And I was with one girl at the time, so and she didn't have it. So you usually get glandular fever from it's like the kissing illness, right? But it's like, all right, that doesn't make sense. But like yeah, and I remember during that timing, during that I had COVID and then led to glandular fever, I just pushed myself. I'm like, oh, I'll just work out when I'm sick. I'll just work out. Like, who cares? But yeah, that wasn't a smart thing to do. And I this time round, but I just didn't get enough sleep. I was just pushing myself too hard, and so that was a big learning. Like, man, I got to sleep. I got to prioritize sleep. So, yeah, I recovered from the pneumonia. It took me about 3 months, and then obviously we were focusing on kind of here into Vietnam, and we moved here in mid-March. But I knew, I was like, as soon as I get to Vietnam, as soon as I fucking get here, I am like just going ham on body transformation, because I'm not going to have to stress a corporate, which was very stressful, by the way. That definitely didn't help. And I'm just going to have time to do what I want to do. So yeah, we got here. We got our life systems set up. We figured out how, the supermarket works and everything in Vietnam, and spent about a week doing that. And then, yeah, I think Brad, I messaged you to update my plan, my program. And yeah, I've just been going ham on it. And like I said to Rad, I think I've put on, so I'm about 73 kilograms right now, and we're about 7 weeks in. And when I got here, I was 66.4 kilos. And
Wow.
like, I don't really eat fat. Like, I mean, there's a tiny little bit around the waist, but it's like, it's marginal. So it's definitely like, and my strength has gone up enormously. But it's what I put it down to is just excellent sleep, because we've got a rigorous schedule here. We're like going to bed at 8 p.m., winding down from like 6 p.m., getting up at 5 a.m.
Smelling the flowers of God.
Smelling the flowers of God, pouring God's tears over our face in the morning, all good stuff. But we've taken it down a little bit. You know what's interesting about that? Like when I going through the pre-pneumonia version of that, it was very like kind of like, I'm get up at 6:15, I'm going to do Wim Hof breathing, and then I'm going to like rush to the gym. It was very like kind of fast paced and quite aggressive, and I think that didn't help. And so what I've kind of done now is it's a lot more like, all right, I'm going to get up, put on some like candles and incense, put on some lo-fi music, just kind of like get into the day, eat some breakfast, then wander off to the gym. So I'm trying to like really balance that, like that kind of yin and yang of it. Because I think that definitely contributed to like just increasing the cortisol, increasing the stress of my day.
Yeah.
Right.
So
yeah, it's really interesting.
That's
one of the greatest catalysts for growth and for success, not just physical growth, but it's often about working out what you can remove from your schedule rather than trying to think of more things that you can add. I know that that's definitely been true for me, because I've gone through periods of time like that where I was doing this hectic morning routine where it was like, 10 minutes of meditation and then, 10 pages of reading and then this much of this. And, it was like this hectic schedule it became it was a point of friction between my wife and I, because I would, like, if she ever wanted to stay up beyond my bedtime, I was like, no, I'm not staying up past this point, because I need 8 hours so that when I get up at this time, I've got the time to do that and I've had 8 hours sleep. And I have had more sustainable and better growth when I actually relax that more. I have a bedtime that I try to stick to, but I've got a child, so it doesn't always work that way. And then I even pushed my wake up time back a little bit recently, because I just wasn't consistently getting to bed at the time that would give me 8 hours to be up at 5. And so I get up at 5:30 now, because that means I can go to bed at 9:30, which like last night we were in bed at 8:30, and we try to get in bed by 8:30, 9 at the latest. But it just means that it just removed that stress of, shit, I'm not going to get 8 hours if I don't get to bed at this time. And how does that affect my day? And often it's that less is more thing,
It's hilarious, because I guarantee you there's going to be a lot of people listening to this going, man, these guys are absolute pussies. They go to bed at 8 and 9 and 8:30, and but it's the same for me. I'm winding down at sort of 8:30, and then I try to have lights out by 9. But I sleep until 6 in the morning, usually 6:30.
It's relevant.
I prioritize I try to prioritize 9 to 10 hours in bed asleep. And I just find that I operate at such a high level if I do get that in comparison to less, you know.
Yeah, everybody.
I'm not a good sleeper though. I wake a lot.
Everybody's different though, and I remember listening to a podcast with Andrew Huberman where he was talking to an expert on sleep, and he's probably a pretty decent person to talk about it as well because he's a professor of neurobiology. But what they've found is that it's less important to get 8 hours sleep or 8.5 or 9 hours sleep than it is to wake up naturally. That's more important because your body goes through these 90-minute sleep cycles. So every 90 minutes, there's a sleep cycle where you have a certain period of time of REM sleep and a certain period of time of light sleep. And usually when you wake up to go to the toilet in the night is usually at the end of one of those 90-minute sleep cycles. And what they've found is that it's actually less important to get that 8 hours than it is that your body naturally wakes up at the end of one of those 90-minute cycles. So if your alarm's going off in the middle of one of those 90-minute cycles, that would actually be worse for you than if you woke up 40 minutes earlier when you were at the end of one of those 90-minute cycles. And I found that really interesting. So, you know, Yanni,
dreaming when you're waking up.
Yeah, that's
then
right.
You interrupted a sleep cycle because in the end REM, that's when you're dreaming. You don't dream in deep sleep. It's only at the start and the end of the cycle.
It's interesting though, because, you know, we're all sitting here talking about how we prioritize our sleep. And, you know, Yanni, you said people are probably thinking that we're weirdos. We get that with our social circles. Like when we talk to our friends who are parents of Keanu, of our son at school, they look at us like we're aliens when we say we go to bed at 8:30 or 9. Like that's when they put their kids to sleep and then get back up to have a glass of wine or something. And they're in bed at 11 or 11:30 or something.
That's right. You know? Yeah. But listen, Sorry, go on,
Tommy. I was going to say, Joey and that weirdo effect, let's call it, when we were like kind of in our last bit of corporate, because Joey's like, he's a power lifter, so he's pretty big, right? So he's eating like 3,500 calories a day, and he's trying to bulk right now. But like when we were in kind of, you know, the normal people.
When is a power lifter not trying to bulk?
Yeah. But like, you know, when we're in like, you know, normal people world, so to speak, like we just like, he was telling me like, oh, people just look at me weird when I'm going off to eat like my giant bowl of rice and stuff. And same thing with me. Like I'm telling my colleagues at work that I'm eating, you know, a steak for breakfast and with rice, and they're just like, what's wrong with you? Like what, you know, you're going to get cholesterol problems. And by the way, I had my cholesterol test the other day and it's like fucking perfect. The fact that I've been living on a largely carnivore diet, I'm like, it's like,
living on a largely carnivore diet,
yeah. Well, the last 2 years I've been eating. Do you know there's a company called Our Cow? They deliver like steaks and you know organic grass-fed, grass-finished beef. Yeah. So I've had those delivered to my house the last 2 years in Sydney, and like the diet's largely been like I might have like 8 eggs for breakfast, or it'll be a steak with rice and a bit of like leafy greens, and just have that like 3 times a day, basically. And then throw in a protein shake as well, a couple of protein shakes. But
nice one.
Yeah,
I think one of the biggest. Sorry, I want to go back to sleep before we go on, but I'll just say one of the biggest misconceptions, and this is something we should really talk about next, is the around the Western diet and how breakfast, lunch, and dinner should all be totally different looking meals. You know, this is something that I think must have been marketed to us through the big food companies,
the food
so
pyramid.
That they could peddle cereals. Yeah. You know, they wanted us to eat shitty cereal. But it really, really is a breakthrough when you can disassociate from that concept and break away from it and just focus on getting your dietary needs covered in each of the, the doses of food calories that you take in. But just quickly on sleep, this is before we move on. It's probably one of the things I was talking to Rad off camera prior to this. We were having a meeting, and I've had clients in the past who failed to get the sleep equation right when they were trying to put on muscle mass. And we would create the most incredible programs. I even had one guy double day training, which is like the gold standard protocol if you've got the time for it and you're recovering and your nutrition is right. If you can hit with double doses of resistance training through the day, watch how quickly your body hypertrophies, your muscles hypertrophy. And we were doing everything. And this guy just was putting on like no weight. Like I think in a year or two of training with him, he put on maybe 3 kilos of mass. And it would have been, I reckon, 50% fat, and he just was like, he kept going back to, it's my genetics, it's my genetics, it's my genetics. But the reality was that he just didn't get the sleep equation right. I used to quiz him all the time and I could see he was coming in tired, man. I reckon he was one of those closet Netflix binges or someone who was on his phone a lot when he was in bed at night or something like that, because he just wasn't getting the recovery in. And the reality is that it is like the most fundamental piece of any training, whether you're an elite level athlete or a weekend warrior or someone like us who just values the health factor of it and the physique factor of it. If you're not getting the sleep right and it's not congruent with the amount of stimulus that your body's getting and the amount of stress load that your body's taking on through, everything, our work, our training, our whatever, other stress mechanisms in our life, it just falls apart. The wheels fall off. There is no way that you can overcome it, and I have met people, I remember conversations with people that you would envision as someone who really knows it all, and they were saying that they survived on like 5 hours sleep. I think even Shannon Ponton. You remember Shannon Ponton from The Biggest Loser? I remember him saying at one point that he only got 5 hours sleep, and he was dosing on pre-workouts before training, but I don't think it lasts. I don't think it's sustainable, and I know there are some people who can survive on less sleep, but in my experience, it's a huge factor. So anyone that's listening that's trying to figure out why they're not healing an injury or they're not putting on weight or they're not getting stronger, man, get your sleep sorted first. And above the physical benefits of that in your training, it is widely accepted now that it is a longevity factor too. Like you just age so much faster. If you talk to any of the life hacking gurus or listen to, I read a book recently that was all about how to prolong life and how to effectively combat aging, anti-aging. It was the central piece. It is the central piece. If you're not getting, they were recommending 9 to 10 hours sleep a night, then there's no point doing any of the other things, Yeah. So it's good that you're sort of recognizing that now.
Yeah. Just to add to that, I think from the sleep thing, especially since getting here, it's just reinforced what I kind of already knew intellectually, but it's like now I've seen the results. Like really the only thing that's changed is I'm still working out the same amount, but I'm less stressed. And that's not just because I not have a corporate job anymore, but I'm sleeping properly. I'm getting my full sleep. And if I go back to 2023, I essentially had the same workout routine. I essentially had the same diet, but I put on weight 5 times slower than what I'm doing now. And I put it all down to sleep. And this might be like a placebo, but I literally wake up when I've had like a full 8.5 hours sleep I'm like, I feel like my body feels good. Like it just feels like recovered, like physically I feel bigger even. And I remember like when I was like back in 2023 and even a bit last year when I was getting less sleep, I'd wake up, my body just felt crap, and now I wake up feeling unreal, even if I had a big like session the last day. So
well, it makes so much sense, right? Because that's when all of the healing is happening. That's when all the good. I mean, the workout that you do is just a stimulus, but the catalyst that creates that triggers the growth is the recovery. It's the way you feed yourself, and it's the way you recover. And that sleep is such a big part of it. And you said your nutrition is on point. Your back into this concept of not having a weird breakfast, like a calorie dense, nutrition poor breakfast cereal in the morning. You're having a steak and rice for breakfast. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, not so much now in Vietnam because it's a little harder to come by like higher quality foods. But
Protein,
I'll talk
yeah.
about the Vietnam in a second. But yeah, back in Sydney, it was like, you know, like a really high quality steak with some rice or even some pasta and a bit of like a little bit of leafy greens cooked in, you know, grass fed butter. It was just fucking delicious. I don't know if you guys follow Paul Saladino, but that's what got me into he got me into the carnivore kind of animal based diet.
Yep.
And kind of went down to a rabbit hole listening to him about the whole, you know, the food pyramid and, you know, red meat's actually good for you, blah blah blah, all that kind of stuff. So yeah,
Yep.
As long as it's good
you know,
quality red meat. As long as it's good quality
100%.
red meat. Some of the you know, the problem, and I won't go too deep into this, but the problem with grain-fed meats is that it changes the omega-6 to omega-3 balance, and it can be quite unhealthy if you're eating a lot of it. If you're like on a paleo or carnivore diet and you're eating just any old meat from the supermarket shelf, it can be a bit hectic. I share a very quick funny story about Vietnam food while we're on the topic of food. My girlfriend, we were traveling in Vietnam last year, at the end of last year, and we were in what's the capital of Vietnam? Not Hoi An.
Ho Chi Minh or Hanoi?
No, not Ho Chi Minh. Up north, Hanoi. Sorry,
Hanoi.
we were in Hanoi, and there's a street in Hanoi called Beer Street, which is quite literally as it sounds. It's almost like a red light district because porn and prostitution is illegal in the country, but it's just alcohol, you know, beer and food shops and things like that. And my girlfriend Leticia said, we have to go to Beer Street. I had a friend here and she said it's wild and it's fun and whatever. So we went and we needed to have dinner, and she's super crazy about germs, you know, so she's already a bit on, you know, she's a bit freaked out about eating, you know, street food and things like that. So we find a place that look like they kind of heggle you into their restaurants on Beer Street. They try and pull you in off the street, and it's hard to walk down and walk past a restaurant without them coming out and just absolutely bombarding you with their menus and things like that. We found a place that she thought looked good. It looked clean enough for her to eat, and we sat down and we ordered and got a couple of beers, and she's eating, and she's a vegetarian. She only eats like tofu and things like that, and I was eating like this meat dish. She goes, oh, this is actually quite good food. I'm glad we found this place. And I'm like, oh, yeah, cool. And then I watched this table next to us make their order. And the guy walks behind us into the restaurant. And then I see him run across the laneway next to us and then down this sort of dark laneway across the road. And then a few minutes later, I see him emerge from that same little dark alleyway with two dishes, and he walks back around the back and then comes out through the restaurant, so it looks like he's gone into a restaurant kitchen and serves the dishes to the people next to us. I said, oh my God, you don't want to know where our food's coming from. He goes, what do you mean? I said, it's not coming from inside the restaurant, darling. I pointed it out to her, and she like poked her head around, and there was just these three guys on the street just cooking the food, like literally on the street, you know, and just like, it was just the filthiest experience. And I was like, oh man, I shouldn't have told her that. I didn't care, like, you know, but she just freaked out. It's just like, oh my God, they didn't even have a kitchen inside. It was just in this little alleyway on the floor. They had a little like burner and whatever else. And I was like, yeah, well, that's what you get when you come to Beer Street in Hanoi. Oh, crazy. I don't even know. She goes, I guarantee you that's not beef that you're eating. Like, probably not. Anyway. Yeah, but
Yeah.
so how are you going? How are you going finding good quality food? By the way, everyone, caveat to that, Vietnam is amazing, and there's some amazing restaurants. You know, it's not all cooked in back alleys. That is probably the dirtiest place in the whole of Vietnam that you could choose to eat. At Beer Street, you get what you pay for. It's all in the name, you know. We had some very good food in Vietnam. I can confirm.
Yeah. What's it been like for you?
No, it's been good. Like, I mean, if you go eat out, I mean, we haven't come across any places that are too dodgy, or not too. No dodgy places we've come across in Da Nang so far. Certainly, you see the street food vendors, but we tend to steer clear of those because that's the classic case of a Westerner coming and getting food poisoning. But all the restaurants and stuff are great. But to be honest, we're avoiding those and just going to the supermarket and buying bulk meat because the food portion sizes here are not made for 6 foot size men. So we go to a restaurant and we end up ordering like 5 portions and they look at us like we're absolutely insane. But yeah, so what we're doing is just to make it easy, we're basically bulk buying like minced beef from the supermarket. We don't, to be honest, it's beef. We can, because we've tried it and we know, but we don't really know like the quality. We don't really know I'm sure it's not grass fed, but it's just we're not planning to stay in Vietnam forever. And that's just allows us to get like a large quantity of meat in. There is a place here actually that does grass-fed beef. It's imported from Australia, and we tried it once, but it's kind of approaching Western prices. So until we start crashing the business, we're going to steer clear of that. So there is a bit of a hit to the diet right now. But basically the diet is like minced beef, huge amount of rice. We throw in some prawns there. We get like frozen prawns at the supermarket because I think they're pretty high in protein, and some salmon as well. That's basically and then in shakes.
I'm going to throw it in there because Yanni and I went through a phase in our lives where we only ate nectar of the gods, when it came to the food. It was like we were shopping at the local organic supermarkets where you're getting grass-finished meat that was twice the price of anything that you get from Coles, and all our vegetables were organic as well.
It wasn't grass-finished, grass-fed. It was...
grass finished, Yanni, means it's grass fed, but they also feed it on grass until the day it's slaughtered, because so you can call beef grass fed in Australia when it's even had the last 180, either 90 days or 180 days grain fed, but you can still call it grass fed, and they do that to fatten it up. Yeah. So that's what the term, I learned that from Aaron. I heard him always saying grass finished. And I was like, what's that? And he told me. So even if you're getting grass fed beef, you can still be eating beef that's had the last 90, I can't remember if it's 90 or 120 days or something, but it's a significant amount of time where they can still legally feed it grain for the last period of its life to fatten it up. Anyway, so that's what grass finished means. Anyway, my point is, we were doing that for several years. And we got to a point, both of us, Yanni was the one that made this decision first, where we decided as we were getting older, we were like, man, we can't afford to continue spending this much money on food if we actually want to get ahead financially. Because when you eat like that, at least in Australia, your food budget is literally triple what you would spend if you eat the same amount of food, but you're not eating that. And so I don't eat that high quality of food anymore. I don't eat just any old crap either, but I'm going through a phase in my life where I'm not, eating grass-fed meat, eating grass-finished meat, and I'm not eating all my food organic and things like that. But what I do is I still make sure that I'm eating whole foods, and I still make sure that I'm getting the protein that I need, and I vary the protein sources as well. So for me, I actually only get protein from meat from 2 meals a day. I think you know this because you've seen me talk about the way that I get protein. I get the rest of my protein from whey protein powder. So I have a smoothie in the morning with 2 serves of whey protein, and then I have another shake in the afternoon later with 2 serves of whey. So there's 100 grams of protein for me in a day. And the reason I'm saying this is because I can almost hear it in your voice, where it's almost like you're kind of like feeling a bit guilty that you're not eating all the best quality stuff, and like shame, Tommy, you're not getting. And I want to just put it out there that it's certainly not what I'm doing right now. And I think it's, if you were to ask the question, which you haven't, but I'll give you some unsolicited advice. One thing that you can do to, like, if you want to improve your health when you're not able to get the highest quality meat sources, is try to vary the meat sources if you can. So even if, I don't know what you can get in Vietnam, but if you can get some different, like if you can eat some buffalo or whatever the wild animals that they've got over there are. If you can even do that, even just once a week, like in Australia, we can get really good quality kangaroo for a reasonable price. Like varying the different types of meat that you eat is a really good option. So that's something that we do, because we're not eating the highest quality meat. We make sure that within a week that we eat pork, chicken, beef and lamb. That's in the least that we'll do, and then sometimes we'll get fish. Fish over here is just so bloody expensive. It's just insane that fish is like a treat or a luxury for us. So anyway, that's just an idea. But I eat a lot of mincemeat. When we look at anything where we need to tighten up our budget and we say, we've got to reduce the cost, I'll go and get 2 kilograms of mince, and I'll make enough food that will last just 2 to 3 days. Where that's lunch and dinner for me, but dinner for Alana and Keanu. So Alana won't eat actually Alana does eat the same thing for lunch, but it's definitely lunch and dinner for me. Like what we did last night, I did a spaghetti bolognese, and so the way that I'll make it as healthy as I can for myself, everything that goes into the spaghetti bolognese is natural ingredients, so I won't use any kind of packet flavoring that I have to do. So I'll chop up the garlic, I'll chop up the onion, I'll put in the raw herbs. So, for spaghetti, we'll put in cumin and paprika and salt and pepper. And even last night, we even had our own beef stock. I boiled down, I make beef stock. What do you call it? Bone broth. So that's a way that we'll make sure that we're still keeping the health quality of the food up, instead of using one of those old El Paso or whatever it is sort of flavor enhancers that you just throw in and then stir it in, and there's your flavor for the food. Anyway, that's
Yeah, no, I definitely relate to what you said about feeling a bit guilty about the reducing the quality, but we're doing our best here, because interestingly enough, one of the things about the food here is, and the meat in particular, we discovered this on our first day at the supermarket, is it expires on the day you buy it. So, and we chat GPT, like, what's going on here? Like, is this supermarket just got a bunch of outdated food? But then it was everywhere. And ChatGPT was saying it's because they don't use preservatives, and the packaging is not vacuum packed and everything. So and because of that, we were not particularly game to get the chicken, because it's like, you see a chicken breast in there, it's like expires today. I'm like, oh, no, don't know about that.
Yeah, red meat is a safer option. I was actually thinking about that as well when you were talking about the quality of the foods. I was wondering if on some level the quality of the food that you're getting in Vietnam is potentially even better than the quality of meat that we have over here. For exactly what you just said there as well. And I wonder how much factory farming they have over there because of the cost that's involved. But I've got no idea, so I don't know what I'm talking about here or not. But
I think you're definitely right about the preservatives, because that's obviously a good thing, right? But like, I don't know, I honestly have no idea about the quality of the beef mince we're getting. It could be all factory farmed on grains for all I know, and it probably is. But whatever, like, it's just, we got to do it. And one thing I actually probably will do off the back of what you just said is I think I'll try some mince pork, because we haven't done any pork yet. We've just been making a beef. But I think I'm getting a bit sick of the beef mince 3 times a day, so I might try something a bit different.
Yeah, for sure.
The one downside to doing the same protein too much is that you can build an intolerance to it, and then it can make you a bit sick in the stomach. So it is good what Rad was saying before, to sort of create some variety in the different protein sources that you're getting, as much as you can, But we've all had phases in our life where you just I can definitely relate to having periods of my life where the food quality was not my priority. I had to, during my 20s, it's funny, during my 20s when I went through that burnout period, man, I was doing everything as good as you could. Like, I was going to an organic butcher, grass-fed, everything, and really, like, my food budget back then was enormous. It was ridiculous. When you're a single guy, you got no dependents, and it's just all about you. You can kind of get away with doing stuff like that. And I was earning a decent amount of money, but then when I started having kids, my priority shifted to creating financial security and long-term sustainability and getting myself financially free and that sort of thing. And so, yeah, I looked at every facet of my life and looked at where I could sort of make money go further. And food was a big one. You know, I stopped shopping at the organic grocers and started shopping at Aldi. And Aldi's got pretty good quality stuff. Their meat, you know, and their grass-fed meat, but it's not as good as going to an all-organic butcher that's grass-finished and whatever. And I'm now at the point in my life where I'm starting to circle back. And I actually did a recce when I was in my old country town of Bellingen recently. I've sourced a farm there their company's called Bello Beef, and you can go and do tours of the farm, and you can do like day lunches. They serve you and everything, and you can book it and do events there. They do weddings and stuff there, and it's like a beautiful farm in Bellingen, and they produce all of the meat and they ship it to Sydney. And I'm looking at doing that now. For the first time in years, going back to, and they do some really cool stuff where they mix into the mince organs. So you can have mince meat with a bit of liver, or you can have mince meat with like heart and things like that, which just gives you a massive boost of nutrients that you wouldn't get just in the muscle meat, you know. And yeah, look, but the cost, man, I'm looking at what it would cost to feed my family for a month is, yeah, probably 3 times what I pay at Aldi for meat, you know. Yeah, it's gonna sting, but I'm in a better financial position now, so I can consider it. Yeah. Yeah. And what about the training? How often are you getting to the gym, and what kind of, you know, I'm out of the loop because Rad's doing your programs, but are you doing gym workouts or are you doing at home workouts? What UMS workouts are you doing?
Way better than the ones you used to write.
So it's
nice.
I'm doing it at the gym. Doing it at the gym. I think it's phase 5, but you've done a bit of a custom one, Rad.
Yeah,
so I think you've added in like a couple of extra. Yeah. So it's all at the gym. I'm doing I'm doing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Yeah, so 5 days. I'm doing 5 days. Sometimes I'll do 4 days. It just depends on how I'm feeling that week, and it'll usually be like I'll just skip one of the lower sessions because I always want to get my 3 upper sessions in. But I'm going to the gym, pretty much following the program exactly. The only thing I have changed a little bit is sometimes I'll like if it's an exercise for like a barbell bench press, I much prefer using dumbbells. I just get a better pump from it and I feel more comfortable. So I use the dumbbells, for example, instead of the barbell. But it's basically like following the program pretty much exactly as Rad's programmed it. And yeah, it's working really well for me. Yeah, and
what's
just
the gym
loving
like
it
over there?
Oh, it's great. It's really good. Yeah, like it's just like a kind of standard gym. Well, actually, no, it's not like one of those commercial gyms like Fitness First or anything. It's more like you go to like an independent gym and they've kind of bought their own equipment but it's all really high quality, and they have like a fucking fish tank in the middle of it, which just looks really cool, and a swimming pool and a sauna in the back, and lots of greenery and trees. It's really
sounds
nice.
Awesome.
Yeah, really, really nice.
That sounds awesome.
But yeah, it's a good environment to train in. The only thing that I don't like about it is they don't have any air conditioning, and it's all open to like just the fresh air to come in, which is humid as fuck. Yeah. So it's a bit of a sweat fest when you've got a big session going.
I've done it. That reminds me of the gyms that we had in East Timor when I was serving in the army, and they weren't nice with really good equipment, but they had what you needed. But you know, there's just no walls or anything, and you're just like sweltering in this tropical heat, getting these workouts in. You know. Yeah.
Yeah, but you feel like a boss when you're there and your whole body's drenched and you got the pump and you're just like, I feel good.
yeah,
totally.
For sure.
Totally.
Yeah, it's a good feeling. It's a good feeling when you really start to make some progress with your goals, isn't it? I've, in the last 2 to 3 years, I've gone from hovering between 82 and 84 kilograms to now hovering between 89 and 91. and I'm not really any, I don't really have much more body fat on me than I did before. And it's all from very similar stuff that you've talked about. It's just sort of stripping things back, getting a bit more simple, getting serious about sleep, being more consistent with my training, doing programs that were really designed for hypertrophy. So really pushing that volume, using progressive overload, and really being on the ball with getting 200 grams of protein per day, which is, 2.2 grams per kilogram of body weight.
And on that note as well, I mean, one of the things that's really helped me get the right amount of protein in, and I learned this from you, Rad. I think you did a TikTok reel about it, of your like day in the life of your diet or something. It was like a year or so ago. And you were talking about the 2 protein drinks that you do per day. And that's basically what I've been doing. It's like, got my 3 main meals. If I can get 4 in, I'll try. But yeah, usually it's a bit of a struggle. So what I do is I'll have my breakfast, I'll go to the gym, come back, have a big protein shake with milk, 2 scoops of whey protein powder. I'll throw a banana in, some almond butter, and just anything else to boost the calories up, a bit of honey. And I have 2 of those a day in addition to the
meals,
the 3 meals.
Yeah, it's such a good,
volume in. I need like the liquid I can get in.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I tried to bulk, to put mass on maybe 10 years ago or so by doing it the really super duper healthy way, which was just all the whole foods. That was back when I was having grass finished everything. And it was just so much food to consume. And that was back when the shakes that Yanni and I were having, we weren't having protein powder. We were having 6 eggs in a smoothie, and then having that with goat's milk and banana or blueberries and a bunch of other things. And I used to put 1 or 2 tablespoons of coconut oil in there to get the calories up as well. And I was having 3 of those a day. So I was having 18 eggs in a day. And it was just so much food to consume, and it was so goddamn expensive. And when you weigh that up against what the cost of having 2 to 4 serves of a good quality grass-fed protein powder is, which is what I'm doing now, the cost is just so much lower, and it is so much easier to do. When I have my breakfast smoothie in the morning, the only thing I would say to you, if you're not doing it already as well, consider adding some fiber sources to it as well, because fiber is really, really important. You when you're increasing calories, you want to make sure that you're increasing fiber as well. It's really important for gut health and for a lot of other health in the body. And there's many, many ways that you can do that. My preferred ways to do it are through LSA powder, so linseed, sunflower, almond, or through psyllium husk, or through oats. But fiber is another one. It's like meat. You want the higher the variety of fibers that you're having in a week, is the better your health is going to be, because they all contain different prebiotics, which is the food for the probiotics, which is what gives us the good gut health. So a wider variety of fiber that you have in 1 week means the wider variety of probiotics that are going to be thriving of good bacteria that are going to be thriving in your digestive system. So it's not just about having fiber in your shakes, but it's about thinking about, like a relatively cost-effective way that you can do it. If you had like some oats in 1 jar at home, and if you had some LSA powder in another one, and if you had some psyllium husk in another one, and then you can even look at having like some spelt form, like if you really want to go deeper into it, and then you can just add some of those to 1 smoothie on 1 day, and some of them to a smoothie on another day, or some of them to your first smoothie, some of them to your second smoothie, whatever it is, just so that you're getting a different variety of fiber in there.
Do you know if there's any benefit? Because I use all 3 of those, but I put all 3 of them in every smoothie.
Yeah, I do that as well. I just do that.
I actually know if there's any benefit to separating them or not.
Yeah, I don't know. There might be, there might not be. But what I do is I don't have oats in all of mine. What I usually have oats when we're out of psyllium husk, and probably the only reason is because, and anybody that's listening, Yanni and I aren't nutritionists, so don't quote us on this. But over the decades, Yanni, when we've talked to people that are right down that rabbit hole of really only eating the foods that are super, super high quality. And, you know, you talk about the ancient diets and stuff, and there is a lot of people that don't like eating a lot of grains. You know, Ben Pakulski is one of them. Ben Pakulski is somebody that advocates. He says, he doesn't say I don't eat grains, but he says I really limit the amount of grains that I eat. And so I'm just aware of that, because I also eat sourdough bread, and I love sourdough bread, but I'm aware of how much of it I eat. I don't just eat it in every meal. Like, I'll kind of have a subconscious quota where I'll think, oh man, I had like 4 slices of sourdough bread yesterday. I'm probably not going to eat sourdough today. And so I'm just aware of how much grains I eat. I don't just eat grains. And I mean, an example of that I do eat grains, last night we had bolognese, and I had spiral pasta with it, you know, so I had a big bowl of pasta last night, you know, so it's not like I'm not eating grains. I'm just aware of it. I'm just really aware of how much grains that I eat. So that's why I don't just put oats in every one of my smoothies.
Yeah, I eat a bit of Lebanese bread. I don't mind that Lebanese bread.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Do you eat grains? Oh, well, you're eating rice, right? You said, Tommy.
Yeah, rice is the primary source of, like the calories and the carbs, I guess. So yeah, huge amount of rice. But I do put oats in the protein shakes.
Yeah, good.
Put oats. Haven't put any LSA or psyllium husk, but I actually might do that because, basically my probiotics, I take a probiotic tablet every day, and, you know, just because I'm eating so much food, I figure it's a good idea. I didn't actually know the oats were, I guess that makes sense, but I didn't realize they were a source of fiber. So that's good to know that I'm doing that.
Yeah. They sure and they're a good source of prebiotic too.
Yep.
Yeah.
The
way your digestive system works and the way you want to feed it is you want prebiotics to feed the probiotics, which then create postbiotics, which are a byproduct of the way that they consume and produce energy. And that's like the gold standard healthy gut. If you feed your prebiotics the right sources of if you feed your probiotics the right source of prebiotics, then they will produce postbiotic in the gut, which is amazing for energy, gut health, brain function, all sorts of stuff. And the best way to do it is to have a really good variety in your food as best you can. But yeah, good sources of fiber are really important.
Yeah. So when you're eating, hopefully you're having vegetables in your diet, and if you are, just try to vary the vegetables that you're having. Don't always eat the same ones. Try to get as much variety of different vegetables and fruits as you can. That is a really, really good thing to do. But we need. Yeah. Sorry, Tommy.
I was going to say we need to increase the level of vegetables. We're kind of a bit slack on the vegetables at the moment. We're just kind of going the protein and the rice route. But yeah.
Yeah.
Still
better than what a lot of people are doing. But yeah, get into some vegetables. I'm sure you'd be able to get some pretty good vegetables over there, I'd imagine. From the markets. Yeah. Well, we're coming to the end of an hour, so we'll wrap it up now. But thanks so much for joining us, Tommy. It's been great to reconnect again and to hear your story and the things that have been working for you to be able to achieve these results, man. It sounds like you're killing it. Sounds like you're crushing it.
Yeah, no, thanks, man. Thanks for inviting me on. And it's funny. I've been basically with you guys since I moved to Sydney in 2021, and there was a period around 2023 when I wasn't, but I just, I always come back to you guys, I feel, because it's just, there's literally no one better. And I said to Rad before this podcast, like everything, all the benefits that I'm getting right now, I can attribute back to like stuff I've heard from you guys, either on podcasts or the training that I've done with you guys. And yeah, like it's, you guys you figured it out. So, hats off to it.
Man, I appreciate you saying that, because the more, it's funny when we get different types of communication from people. We get people like you who have been with us for long enough and who have really tasted the secret sauce, have drunk from the Unity Gym fountain and really got the results. And when I interview people that have been with us for extended periods of time, usually a year or longer, they are just raving fans. They just rave about what we do. But then on the other end of the spectrum, you get people who have no experience with us and who have just watched our content. And Yanni was just responding to one of these just the other day. And they almost think we're snake oil salesmen, because they're like, it just sounds too good to be true. Like, this is, nobody offers this kind of results, or, and they want to know if we're a legitimate business or we're going to scam them or anything. So it is really reassuring to hear stories like you and to hear you say words like that. And it really comes from Yanni and I. It's like what we were talking about before about business. We've come up against so many hurdles along the journey of being personal trainers. And I do have to give Yanni some credit for this one, because it's him that always just said to me, we're finding a solution for this. It doesn't matter what, but we're not going to just shrug our shoulders and go too bad. And what you're getting the benefit of is years of having clients that, would leave because they felt like they weren't getting their needs met. And then we would look at a pattern and say, well, people are leaving because of this. How do we solve this problem? And then we'd work until we'd solve that problem. And then the next problem would be presenting itself. And there's so many systems that are in place now that for you guys that are working with us online, you just get this great content that guides you along the journey, but it's all because of the hurdles that we've had to overcome. And so much of it goes so far beyond, this is the best program to build muscle, and this is the best way to eat to build muscle. It's like, how can we overcome people's obstacle of struggling with getting sleep, or struggling with fitting their workouts in, or struggling that they can only go to the gym 2 days a week and they have to train at home 2 days a week, or like, there's all these things that everybody struggles with, that we've just found really creative ways that work to help people, So yeah, it's great to hear that it's working so well for you, man.
No, 100%. I'll tell you a quick story. I vividly remember, on the note of systems, my first day stepping into the Unity gym in Sydney, and I remember signing up. And I remember, I don't know if you probably don't have it now, but you had this onboarding series of videos, and it was like, you Rad, like, hey, welcome to Unity gym, and it would go across, like, I think the first week. And I remember just thinking, hey, this is like super professional, but also like, I could tell that you guys like gave a shit about the information and the details. And that was like, you see so many gyms where they're just kind of selling on image, or, be a gym bro like me, look how big I am. And you guys like were in the weeds, in the detail. It's like, this is how it works. And even the conversations we've had in this podcast, like, are reflective of that. And that really like it's just very different and very, very good. And that built a lot of trust, like, right up front for me as a customer. Because I'm like, these guys actually fucking know what they're talking about, and they care. They're not just selling an image. So
that's awesome, man. That's awesome. It's good to know that.
I want to see photos of that fish tank in your gym, mate.
Yeah.
I'll send it through.
Put something up in the app, in the community forums. This is where I'm working out.
I will.
All right.